If you watch my previous video where I assembled these wooden partridges ready for my automaton, now I need to paint them. And what I'm going to do is use artist GESSO, just put it in frame, which is like a plaster-based acrylic paint. It fills the grain, leaves a nice smooth finish, and also seems to make the wood harder. So to do that, it's always very convenient to have some way of holding the piece that you're painting. Sometimes I actually drill holes in them to put a wire in so I can hold it while it's drying. In this case, very conveniently, there is a hole built into them with the gimbal in it, and therein lies a problem, of course, because if you can see there's a brass gimbal in there with a hole in it, and the last thing I want is that gumming up with paint. So what I'm going to do is just use some of this foam, thin foam, and cut a strip. Cut a little chunk off. Just start a hole off in it, otherwise it's quite difficult to get the wire through it. Then take the wire, and that then goes through. There. So we've got like a little bung now, and I can put that bung on with these gimbals. They rotate. That one needs rotating back, so I'll just use a different one. And this one's rotated as well. So the solution is just to use a pin, or in this case this little punch to get it there. And there we are. So the wire goes in, but of course it's still loose, so what I need to do now is push this foam into the hole to make the block. There we are, easy done. So if you can see, that foam is now blocking the space so the paint can't get into the mechanism, holds it more firmly on, and that'll stay in there until the bird is finished, painted. Right, so the next job is to start with the gesso painting. Okay, I've got the gloves on now, ready to do a bit of painting with the gesso. Quite an old pot, in fact so old that the cap's fallen off, but still got a bit of paint in there. You can see that. So I'll just get a bit out. It's quite thick stuff. You see, quite gloopy there. It's probably thicker than it normally is. It's dried out a little bit, so I've got a little bit of water. Just get it going. Okay, just put the top back on a little bit. Right, so here's the birds. They've got the bung in the bottom. Just put a finger on there, so I need the glove really. Get that gesso on. I'm going to sand this off, or sand it over at least, won't sand it off. So I can put it on quite thickly. Feel any indentations. Good. There's one. Do another. They're on the gimbal, so they keep spinning round. So. Whoops, drop off. It sets quite hard, so I don't want any big lumps left on there. Just enough to fill it. Because it does take a little bit of sanding off if you get a great lump of the stuff. Good. Okay, I'll just get on with the rest, plenty more to do, and then we'll come back when it's dry. They've had 24 hours to dry now, and they've got a good hard finish. They almost feel like unglazed pottery. But as you can see, there's now some roughness where there's little bits of stray wood on it and a little bit too thick with the gesso. And also I can see places where I didn't quite sand it off enough. It's much easier to see that now that I've got the gesso on it. So I'm going to need an application of fine sandpaper over it now, just to smooth it off. As you can see, this is taking off the gesso in some parts and exposing the wood again. So I will do this, and then I'll give it another coat of gesso so we've got a nice consistent underlayer when I put the paint on. I've sanded them all now. If they rather remind me of grouse halfway to their winter coat in blotchy brown and white. If I was to start painting them now, this colour difference would tend to show through. So I'm going to have to now give them yet another coat of gesso to make them all nice and white again, and then we can get on with the actual painting. So I won't bore you with the details of the gesso again. See you later.